All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Happy tax day. Um, as I was just saying, just in case we are in some thunderstorm warnings here, and if suddenly everything goes blank, y'all don't know what happened. But we'll get started. I know especially for the people on the East Coast, it's later. But so tonight we've got David Morgan. He's one of our members, and he does a lot of uh, night photography, a lot of just all types of photography, but also has gotten into infrared. So he's going to do us a presentation, and I'm going to turn it right over to him. So, Dave, if you want to take over, we'll let you get going.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me here as a speaker. My journey started a few years ago with Nikon when they had the 850 kind of take the place of the 800. And we had a speaker come to the Fort Worth Camera Club, and he did all of Africa in infrared. And I was really fascinated with his images. And I thought, wow, I have an old camera, D800, sitting around. I'll just have it converted and we'll go from there. Well, I had it converted and I got the camera back, and I really didn't know anything about infrared except for what you would see on some of uh, the internet sites like Life Pixel, and they would show you how the colors would change, and you would get your white, green, white effect. And I thought, this works really. And I took it out, and then it was kind of disappointing at first because you see this red screen, and you're like, what's going on here? It's all red. It's supposed to be the pretty white leaves and blue sky, and none of that was happening. And then the lenses weren't, I had all these really nice, the high-end lenses, and the lenses wouldn't work with the infrared because it would cause what they call hot spots because of the coatings. Finally, just kind of put it to the side a little bit, and I would pick it up every once in a while. And I would also, the difficulty with the DSLRs is you'd have to use your live view and focus from live view because infrared doesn't focus the same as your camera would. So I kind of fell back on that. And then I picked up a Sony RX100, a little point and shoot. I said, I can't go wrong here. It's got a built-in lens. And all I have to do is figure out the white balance and go from there. So I would shoot around, and I went all over the world. I have some images from India and Thailand and some other places. And I would just take pictures because I thought someday I would learn how to properly uh, post-product it. So in that, I'll go into the lesson, and the lesson is kind of a little science, but not much behind infrared, and kind of Barney's the reason for me doing this. I did the winter trip with you guys, and Barney was there, and he had talked about a little bit about infrared, and I was like, really made me dive deeper into it. So once I've got into the process of learning what infrared was and what you're actually photographing, now I have two 7A AR4s. One's a 720 and one's a full spectrum. And I'm just having kind of a blast with the different filters that you could put on and making it work and really learning as I go what you're photographing. And it also helps you compose as well as put together compositions and everything. So with that, I'll go into this PowerPoint I put together. And again, Rabbit Hole Productions. I don't know if is a screen proper, Dave, for the PowerPoint. So you see the slide. Okay. So first slide, again, Rabbit Hole Productions. You definitely infrared is a pretty big rabbit hole as we work through this. Again, the let me click this. The intro to this is we're going to talk about some science, history, camera conversions, the effects of using different filters, white balance and exposure, and conclusion. And I've had a little bonus at the end of this if you're still interested, because it does dive into a rabbit hole, is how to properly create files for your camera that Adobe uses called DCPs, digital camera profiles, which are almost a must when you want to edit infrared and RAW. So infrared with RAW was what I couldn't do before, and I was always trying to get my JPEG to become proper, and I really couldn't until now. And then the conclusion. So this Robert Wood was the first one to come out with the infrared. He's a physicist in 1910, so it's been around quite a while. Uh, Long exposures, that was the other problem with infrared. It's such a uh, small niche of the photography world. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities, traditional infrared colors. We have a channel mixer swap experiments, some color exploration, and then you can, a lot of people really get into infrared for the big black and whites, makes your water dark and your skies dark and really makes things pop with color in black and white. Life Pixel is, these are the three people, there's more than this, that actually convert cameras and that has information on cameras. Life Pixel is one of them, and I use both of them. I use Kalari for my full spectrum, and I use Life Pixel for my 720 nanometer camera that's dedicated just for that. And we'll get into those. Spencer's I've not used, but Kalari and Life Pixel, they both have YouTubes that can help you through the process as well. Again, camera lens, a real thing is you have to have the proper lens to go with your camera. And you can't just get your 70 to 200 2.8 and get it to work. You'll be come up with this white spot in the middle of it because of your coatings. It's such a good lens. So you have to kind of work with different lenses. And there's a lens database that both of these companies have for the proper lenses that you can apply to. I just picked up a 16 to 35, I think the GM2 Sony, and it's a really good lens for this. But my first lens was a 35 to 300, which gives me that little bit of zoom, and I don't get any hot spots. And I use it for almost most of my stuff. Some color looks at this, the 590. We're going to talk about some numbers. Uh, a dual band is they allow the blue and the red channel in, and then you can your conversions to black and white, which you get the rich color black and white. This is Lucerne. This is kind of uh, Switzerland is there with the infrared, the D800. And again, not knowing, I'm just doing a long exposure in infrared, hoping something turns out. I should get a good black and white out of it is really what I was hoping for. And it came out pretty good. This is Singapore. This is Marina Bay Sands, huge hotel taken from Gardens by the Bay. The clouds were just exploding. So you could see that the infrared can really give you some dramatic skies as you're working through some of the backgrounds and stuff. Precio's is a winery down in Hill Country. Again, the everything that you see organic is turned to white, and then you get dramatic skies, and then you get the dark black and whites. A botanical garden reflections, you get the sky. This is like a 590 nanometer uh, take on this, where you still get kind of a dual band with the blue and the yellow. The Eastern Sierras, again, taken a long time ago. Uh, we were doing a trip with the photo club down the Eastern Sierras, just a quick image. This is Inks Lake close by. I took this last year. I have a AR, the aero chrome, they call it. IR chrome is the filter, blue sky, and there's very little production, post-production on this one. For it is what it is. It's the dual band. Back in back in the days when we are living in the haze, and you got the Jimi Hendrix experience, and they were actually using infrared for their album cover, aerochrome. That's what they're using. These are some of the ectochrome back in the film days that was used. Problem again, long exposures. If you had the wind blowing the leaves or things moving, it's really hard to capture it. We've also used this in World War II. The images here were some practices by Kodak, and they would take a picture of a factory, and then they would cover the factory with camouflage cloth, right? So they're camouflaging it, but the infrared only picks up organic stuff. So here's the camouflage, and then when they shoot it with the infrared, that doesn't reflect back the same light as the normal camouflage would. Infrared will not allow it. It doesn't reflect the same light. I'll just leave it at that. But they've used this back then for looking for this kind of stuff. It changes the foliage. This is some foliage too, as aerochrome film, and you can clearly see that you can pick out a subject in this stuff pretty readily with the red background. With the foliage, it all turns red, and everybody else, even though they're wearing camo, it still shows no color. So again, let there be light. Uh, this is all about photons and light and our spectrum. And this is where it gets a little scientific, so I'll keep it kind of light and the wavelengths that we're going to use and the visible spectrum, what we can see. So again, we know how waves work. Electromagnetic waves is really what light is when you get down to it. Our visual acuity, it goes from about, I'd say 350, but they go from nominal 400 to 700. And the new number here is a name is nanometers. So we're going to use nanometers for a reference wavelength. So, and this is different ways of looking at it. Again, the visible spectrum, you have gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves, and our vision is right here in this 400 to 700 nanometers. Again, another way to look at it, you got your visible light over here, and this is where infrared kind of comes in. 720 to 1,000 is kind of where our sensors stop at 1,000. And I just recently saw they had a 1,000 filter, I believe on Kalari, which is straight up no color at all. So, and over here is thermal imaging. So this is not to confuse infrared with thermal imaging. Thermal imaging is a totally different thing that we look for body heat, that type of thing. So thermal imaging is found over in this spectrum. Again, a sunlight visible here, near infrared and UV is what we're going to capture. Our eyes take in through our lens, photoreceptors, all send that to our optic nerve in the brain. So with that said, it's how we change our, should use my mouse on there somewhere, get it out of the way. How we see these are the rods and cones to get the RGB out of it. Again, typical human cone cells go 350 to 700 in these wavelengths. So why do leaves look green to us? Well, this is the leaf itself is reflecting this color. It mostly absorbs the red and the blue light. And so we're able to capture that with our camera with infrared using the green light. So with our camera, I'll kind of work this backwards. We have our camera that's been set up to look at IR. We have an infrared pass filter, which allows infrared to come through it, but it blocks our visible green and our blue and our UV. So we're only getting infrared. Another way to look at this, I have a bunch of them. So a non-converted camera has this hot mirror, and also you have your bare sensor below that. So the hot mirror is actually cutting the infrared. Infrared's always around us. So they figured out how to make these cameras work properly by blocking off the infrared light. So you remove the hot mirror and you replace it with a certain filter, such as this piece of glass here. It's a 720 nanometer. And then that would set your camera to the 720. You can always go higher, like to an 850 or 1,000, but you can't go less. So you capture the infrared light. So when to do that, a modified sensor, here's your hot mirror, your bare sensor. Don't try this at home. But this is how it works. And there are some kits, and LifePixel does use some YouTubes of actually how to do it yourself. I've opened up a camera once and I saw there was too many screws in there for me to remember where they all went back. So you have the filters that you can actually put in there, a 590, 640, a 720 that they replace this with, or a full spectrum, which is no filter at all. And then you have the advantage of being able to put a filter on. So again, a piece of glass, it's just an all pass filter. So now you have a full spectrum converted camera. But with a full spectrum, you have to use a filter to be able to capture the light properly. You have all UV, and I'll go through each one of these filters as we go through this. So again, filters are the key. They have different kinds of filters. They have the round ones, right, that you can put over your lens. And you could, if you're lucky enough to have the same size lens filter for multiple cameras, multiple lenses, then it would work out really well. But these the 590 is kind of where these start. 665, 720, and you see this nanometers, 830. Here's our dual pass. And this filter right here actually takes your camera back to a color camera. The IR, this is a cut IR cut filter. So it's just like putting that filter back in to your sensor. So myself, I actually use clip-ins. This is a Canon, I use Sony, but I use clip-ins because they're so easy to take in and out. And I can have multiple clip-ins, including NDs. So if you have like the big bulb lenses with, it gets real expensive to put a filter over the front of it. You put these drop-in NDs, and behind it, I can run my 12 to 24 with no problem. And I could put a 10 ND in there if I wanted to stop it down. But again, clip-ins, they're magnetic. They have a little special tool that picks them out. But again, creates problems with dust if you're not careful. Uh, I'm not having any problems. I'm just really careful when I replace them. But it is a problem. Sony has a little curtain that goes over the top of their sensor that you could kind of helps keep your tool out of it. So these are some of the colors. The full spectrum is really no IR cut filter on there. Here's your hot mirror. Here's IR chrome, which is one of my favorite. I like to mess with. Uh, and it doesn't require what they call a channel swap. These here, the 590, these, the 590, the 665, any of those other numbers, they require what they call a channel swap, where you change the red and the blue channel. And we'll talk about that later. Here's an 830 nanometer filter in a Tiffin blue, which I haven't, it's too much for me, but the 830, 720, 830, again, you're taking away all the color and you get this white uh, leaf. I want to call it the organic material is really what you're shooting. So the dual pass filter, what's it do? Dual pass, again, is you have some visible light, you some infrared. So you're able to get a blue sky with clouds. And then you can usually get yellow, orange, red foliage. Uh, Again, no swap needed at the top. So what you see is what you're going to get. There is some post-production. You get some good color definition. You can add a 720, 590, all of those with a. So disadvantage, again, the color white balance we'll talk about a lot as we're going along, and you'll see the color balance is really can be tricky if you can't get to the raw version. Not for beginners, and again, flares and hotspots are a big deal. Dual pass, sky and water. Uh, these are the colors that you're going to get. Plants, you can get red, yellow, the colors you can get. Stone and concrete and clouds are usually going to maintain their same color. But you do need to do a custom white balance of gray with this dual pass filter. So there's a couple of different custom white balances that you should do, a green one on the grass and maybe a gray one like you just photograph your white balance off concrete, which actually works. So again, aerochrome was pretty big back when with it's a dual pass filter. Clary Vision, this is the one I have. That's IR chrome where you see that red leafy grape stuff and change the filter to capture the image. Tweak the colors and processing. So it's really what you see is what you get. 590, this is a Goldie, they call this because of the yellow. You get the blue skies with the yellow foliage. You do need to do a color swap. You get good color rendition. It's a versatile filter that you can screw on or clip in. A decent level of reflected IR. Good color looks. Chromatic aberrations, there are some problems, lens issues, the hot flares, and maybe not enough IR. It does take a little time to process because you have to channel swap, which is the red and the blue channel. We'll switch them out. How it translates this way. Again, the sky. depending, you can desaturate it. Your custom white balance is going to be grass, which will be green. So you just point your custom white balance at the grass, take the picture, and you can either use the JPEG or post-process it with the raw sand IR source. Well, these are just some of the colors, how they're transformed. Again, this is actually where I'm headed tomorrow. Fort Griffin. I've shot this a long time ago with just a super color was what the Sony was, and you keep your natural concrete colors, and then the foliage around you will go the yellow, and you can continue to keep your blue sky. Just a different look. The Thailand, same thing, walking around. I use my good camera, regular color, and then I would kind of start snapping photos of what I shot with my color camera to see how it would turn out in infrared. And this was processed like 5 years later. I just saved them all. I thought someday, and the day came, so it's good. I kept the raw files. This is Africa. So again, Serengeti, wide open area. Again, it's a IR chrome filter, and this is right out of the camera pretty much. 720, it's your standard IR, really. You get a good white leaf and a nice rich black sky, black water, easy to process. You got a lot less color coming through. Some of these, like this one, if you're shooting some filters on a DSLR, will take you a lot longer than your standard uh, mirrorless. Mirrorless nowadays, I could point and shoot without having to put it on a tripod. I can focus with my normal focusing. I don't have to worry about IR focusing. So it's really, the cameras have really evolved. How they transform, again, grass is what we're going to use to set our custom white balance. Your filter, desaturate the sky is going to be black. Your plants, different colors. You can get yellow out of it, but it's not really trying to let that through the IR source. Monochrome, again, this is another big reason why people like to shoot IR is because of the tonality range, I think, if you can put it that way, that you can get. This is Marina Bay area, Gardens by the Bay in Singapore. Again, shooting, this is a super color, the Sony. And it was, you get the nice blue sky and the white leaves on the green foliage. 830, again, we're taking almost pretty much no color at all coming through. You could see the small slice here. So you're going to get rich blacks, whites. Uh, there's no possible way to bring any color back into it. But yeah, you don't shoot an 830 for color. You're actually trying to get your black and whites. Again, how they
So,
translate, gray. Yep. Question?
No, no.
So here we have the winery Persisos, again with converting the 720. With this, you get the clouds and the white grape leaves, which are green, and green grass turns white, and it's a rich image. Full space for full spectrum cameras for deep space. I have probably four filters get pretty expensive in the astrophotography side of things, and the little 2-inch quad or tri filter can run up as easy as $300 just for the filter. But you cut through all of the light that's your sodium vapors, all your city street lights, and you can get right to the heart of what you're photographing, which is hydrogen alpha, some sodium and oxygen. With that, this is Rosette Nebula up by Orion. Again, hydrogen all over the place, hydrogen alpha. And you can still keep some of the color of our blue stars and our red shifted stars. The narrowband filters is another part of this. It's a specific wavelength that they're using. 656 nanometers is hydrogen alpha. So you have to shoot each one of these, and this is what the Hubble uses to get more definition out of these nebulas and space objects. Oxygen 2, which is just very little in the space, and then sulfur 2 are the three filters you use, and then you stack them together in different channels. You'll use a blue channel, a green channel, and you'll stick these certain, I got a shot of this here. These here, these are the same, these are the Rosette Nebula shot with just a hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and the sulfur. So you can see how much is in each of this. And then you stick these all together in the different channels, the blue, the red, and the green. And then they come up with a color that you're gonna, it's really beautiful. These are the wavelengths. So this is kind of like your infrared as well, right? With 565 nanometers, we're still talking nanometers here. So the oxygen 3, hydrogen, and sulfur 2 is the, and they put them together in this RGB, and you come up with this image. And it's a lot of detail that you can get out of this due to the color changes of the gold and the blue. But that's the space side of things. White balance is really important. There's a name, Rob, R-O-B, Shea, S-H-A-Y, S-H-E-Y. He has a book, and highly recommend this guy, his YouTubes, his free digital camera profiles that you can use, and you can put them in your Adobe software, and you can just pull up this wide range of colors that he uses, goes in depth on exactly how this works. Shooting, how do you focus with infrared? And editing, we'll talk about a little bit of that, special profiles that your camera will use, and they have these profiles in what they call LUTs, L-U-Ts, that you can use as well. So it does add to your arsenal. The editing process, again, if you're just shooting JPEG or for raw editing as well, you should have a properly white balance. What happens is that you'll go into your raw file and you'll try to adjust your color range with your white balance indicator, and it'll be jammed all the way to one side, and you can't get it off of that. So what you do is you create a DNG for your camera, and you can also create a digital camera profile. So red and blue channel swap, it's done all the time with infrared on the at the raw level as well with LUT profiles. So this is kind of deep when you get into this raw level adjustments and creative processing in Photoshop. So you shoot your IR, you have your raw, or you have a JPEG, right? And you can go, the JPEG's pretty much baked in. So you really not much you can do except go into post-processing. But your raw file, you can actually attach that DCP file to your file, actually make a good rendition, and your RGB, your red and blue channel swap, you can have in what they call a LUT. That's a lookup table is what LUT stands for. And they're right there in your pull down on the right side of Photoshop. And then you could do a channel swap, and then you create your images and kind of do it this way. A lot more, of course, we know that we have more available to us in RAW in the color range, even in infrared. Okay, so we need to use a manual mode when we set our cameras up. You want to use the lower ISOs because they'll start ballooning out. Your whites will start ballooning out, and you'll start losing your edge of your leaf, sharpness to the color. So keep your ISO down. I always use a custom white balance. I have 3 different settings, a blue, a green, and a concrete. So you can almost hardly any post-production. Of course, you're going to use your histogram to get your keep from blowing out your highlights. And custom white balance, we just talked. 720. You want to use a green grass. Dual pass, again, you might even try a blue sky for a color balance or custom white balance. And then I'll grab at the end. Now, what I have here is just has anybody created a digital camera profile before in the group, or even heard of one before? So it's really,
I
really
have.
interesting.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool.
That's
Yeah, the digital camera profile, and That is it's very powerful for just your specific camera. You just take a photo, you take your raw file, and actually you can go into, you got your raw file on this big screen, right? So, and you just click right here where it shows you you're going to download something, and you come over here and you save it as a DNG right to your desktop. You kind of just name it for the camera you're using. Say, this is what I want. I want a DNG, and it does it for you. You don't have to go get a DNG processor. So, and you leave all that stuff the same and then save it. So now you've saved that to your screen. Now I want to create a digital camera profile. So that you'll need a piece of software, and it is called a DNG profile editor, and it's free on the internet. Really simple steps with this one. The first thing you do is you drag your white balance calibration underneath color matrices to nothing. Take it all the way to the end. Then you're going to come over to the matrices here. Of course, we pulled that over. Then you come over to the tone curve and you put these two numbers in. And you can get this, I think, from Rob Shea. He has a couple numbers and he uses a bunch of this stuff. So this sets up your camera with this profile. So once you've done this, then you're going to need to export it. This gets kind of deep. We're going to export it. We're going to click here on the left. It says export, and you're going to save it. This profile is an Adobe standard. Very simple. And there's two places here, Mac users and for PC users. So you go to your C drive, you go to your user, C user, and then you go to your name. Then you go to app data, roaming. It gets pretty deep into the drive, Adobe, and this is where Adobe keeps all of their DCP profiles. And when you see landscape or vivid or any of that stuff, they keep these in lookup tables or camera profiles. So you go to camera raw and then profiles, and you'll save it to that. So every time you pull up your Photoshop, you will actually click. It will save it like this, DCP. I have a whole slew of DCPs in for the different cameras I have. C drive, Dave's app data, roaming, Adobe, camera raw, profiles, and you save it there. So once it's saved there, every time you open up your Photoshop raw, you actually can click on this one box right here where it says profile to the right. It has four little boxes. You click on that, and the next box that pops up, it says profiles right here. So you click on that profiles and you just click on that Sony whatever you put in there, and then it'll put your profile in there and it'll set that up for you so you can now adjust it in the raw. And it's real easy. You just hit the back button. Now I really call it for your white balance, your warming tool for your color picker. You can slide that around and get the right look that you're looking for. It's very powerful. Any questions on this? I could go back and clarify, but it does get kind of deep. But these are the steps here. That box right there, there's your color picker. But we're going to click on that. See how my temperature is all the way to 2000? It's pegged. So I can't go any lower when it's all, and I can't do anything from there. So you get your DCP set in, and now I can actually make the adjustment over here. Now I 9500, I can get my either colors ready for a color swap, which I can build a lookup table for, or do the lookup color swap yourself. And that's done here with the channel mixer. And you can use a channel mixer in RAW. So it's kind of cool. A lot of back in the day, they never had that. But a channel mixer, you're set up here. So in the channel mixer, and this is really required from 590, 665, 720, to be able to get your blue sky and the white foliage. You'll take your channel mixer, there's my hand, you take the red channel on your channel mixer, and you take your red to 0 and your blue to 100. Then you go to your blue channel. You take your blue to 0 and your red to 100. And that's called the channel swap. And it's very powerful. They use it in all IR. if I have any more. So that is what I have for channel mixing up to all the way to DCPs, which are really powerful. And they have these things called lookup tables, which even take it further because on your DCP profile, you don't have to pull it to all the way to 100. You can make it 50 or you can make it 20, and you could set each one of those temperatures to a different setting, and it helps you in the post-processing. Any questions so far that I can go back on? Again, infrared nanometers, you really learn a lot about your camera because you get into these DCPs. I've never messed with this stuff before. And then now I'm doing RAWs are real simple. The IR chrome filter is one of my favorite because of the colors. And let me get out of this in this. I think I just hit escape.
So Dave, I have a question.
Yeah,
I want to make sure I understood you correctly. So you could do a lot of different, you could have a camera converted to different wavelengths. But if you get a full spectrum, then you can just use the pop-in filters. Is that correct, or did
that's
I?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. You get more leeway with the full spectrum, being that the fact that you can go back to a yellow or a red, but once you get the 720, there's no more color in post-processing. But yeah, I think if you're going to spend the money to do that, I would get the full spectrum and, uh, just maybe pick a couple filters to play with, uh, or screw-ons. If you have one lens, and there is a big lens database, everybody in the uh, field has one of those that do the uh, the IR to the camera, like Pixel and Kalari are the two top. And you want to get a quality filter uh, when you're messing with this because you're going to run into light getting in the wrong nanometer light, light is keeping through your filter that it shouldn't. So spend the money on the filter. The R72 is the big one that a lot of people use, but the problem with that one is, again, you have to take the filter off to focus, actually just to uh, to get you
Phew.
close to the focus, I think. Take the filter off, put the filter back on, and you still have to find out your focus with the live view. And then it's a long exposure. I mean, that's a lot longer than normal. So wind blowing leaves is going to make a messy image. And I think it's nowadays the easy way for me is a clip in and a point and shoot. It's you can use almost the same shutter speed you would use in a color image with the modified. So I think I come up with some of these other images I have here. I have.
So, David, once the modifications are done to the camera, is there any, let's say, any changes in the stops of light? Like, does it influence like the amount of light that is entering, or is like the same as usual?
The same amount of light is coming through. And I think as you get into the like 720 and the 850, you're gonna need more light. I think it's a two-stop difference.
Okay.
If I can get one of these to come up, I have some other images here taken with the infrared, the IR Chrome, Snake River, Oregon coast, along the Oregon coast. This is some different colors too. Some of them they're called like a cotton candy look, which is it's not for everybody. The hardest part about IR for me is getting other people to buy into a false color. I mean, you're so used to seeing, oh, I got the blue sky, but wow, I've never seen a forest with pink leaves before. And this is on the ocean and everything was green, and the shell came out the normal, the rocks are the normal color because it's not organic. So it just reflected the infrared back. Lighthouse, again, there's a fern, the ocean's still blue, and this is pretty close to being out of the camera. There's just a little color going on with the red and the orange channel. Durango last year, again, almost a 590. Still, the colors, green, this is a 590, yellow with the Oregon coast. Then you get your rich black and whites, and you got the dark water and, the dramatic skies, which I like. Africa, acacia trees, Indonesia, just interesting drama. The clouds in some of those countries are just exploding. Indonesia near Borobudur, really different look, but everything, again, the hardest thing I think is to get the color cast out of some of these. This is tame, to a 720 from the same image is the colors, the change. This is Thailand. Again, everything was green. The reflection of the water turns blue. It really came out, I think, kind of nice. Another boat on Thailand, a big hotel with a beautiful sky. I saw the clouds and I wanted to keep that, but I wanted to change I wanted the IR look from the leaves because Asia, it's just so green. Thor's Well, you get this rich black and white on the Oregon coast. This is a lighthouse near Coos Bay. I don't think of the name of this one. This is a hard one to get to. You have to bushwhack pretty far back in because they've taken the access away from the other side. Cape Argo is the name of this lighthouse, and just real pretty ocean, different colors. This is a Coquille Lighthouse there in Bandon. Again, you can keep the same color of the lighthouses. It's still the same paint. It doesn't reflect any IR. The colors stay the same when you have a full spectrum and you add a filter to it. Again, Mount Moran. Again, this is when we were kayaking down the Snake River, handheld infrared. Oregon
Get
Coast,
it.
the Columbia River. What's
Yeah,
that?
another question. So when they do a full spectrum conversion, are they just taking off everything in front of it, or are they actually changing the sensor?
They're taking off the hot mirror and
Okay.
they're adding a little thin layer, but took the place of that mirror because of the focus. So the focus will stay the same. So they add just a thin layer of glass under there, but it is a straight up sensor. That answer your question?
Yeah.
I think Indonesia. I think Elvis has left the building here. It's where they got this character from, but it was some guy's foyer, and it was big. You have the big foliage. Really interesting statue. Indonesia again. This is that cotton candy color look to it. Oregon coast. This boat's almost gone. I've been photographing it for probably 10 years now, and it's getting worse every time I see it. It's more caved in and decrepit. But this is all green moss, and it's really pretty at low tide because of the green moss and the old tug. Some driftwood on the beach with a red filter, IR chrome. Blue skies again. Really pretty foliage. You get a lot of definition in the leaves, so it's not blowing out on you. Sharp. Again, IR foliage through the log. Cape Disappointment, the Waikiki Beach, where that one wave pops up and comes back. I like to go there here in the summer, but that's usually happening in the winter.
Dave, this is Barney. You want to talk a little bit about f-stop and lens flare? I don't know whether you covered that or not, but I think that's
Yeah,
that's an important aspect of shooting IR.
that is a good point to bring up because f-stop wide open or at f22, you want to kind of stay away from those two ends of the spectrum because what they call diffraction is still really bad in infrared. And lens flare, the quality of the lens is it really makes it worse for the infrared because of the coatings that they put on them. So it's kind of that's my take on it. How about you, Barney? What do you think?
Well, yeah, and I know Shay promotes this, and I've done some tests myself with this, shooting at the 700, 800 range, and that is always set the camera to f4 or 5.5 and stay in that range, because the as you close down the lens, then the hot spot gets more and more prevalent and more difficult to eliminate. So shooting more wide open is kind of the way that at least I've kind of learned to avoid hot spots and the like. Lens flare to me is, I mean, it shows up in the strangest places. Um, Again, because of the, like you pointed out, the lens coatings are for to handle the visible light, not the infrared light. So you can get some interesting streaks or some interesting spots in the image that you don't see until you get it up on the computer.
That is true. You see what you did to me, Barney?
Well,
Got me
I
started in a
like
really.
these. Yeah, the um, shooting with this particular filter. Um, do you see much lens flare at all?
Not really.
Not really. That's good.
Unless in fact, I was almost pointing up at the sun in Big Bend the other day in that one little place. It's a little oasis, and they had a little water pump weather thing there. And I never got a lens flare off of that, but I only use a couple lenses for my infrared because of the hot spots that are there predominantly, especially when you start using the IR chrome filter and you
Yeah.
allow more color in.
Yeah, the other thing that I found, Dave, is that the cheapest lenses I have work best with my IR modified cameras, and my prime lenses um, are can be troublesome. Um, but I have a like an 18 to 35 $200 or $300 Nikon. I shoot Nikon, and I rarely run into issues as far as hotspots with that lens go. But I put on a 20 millimeter f 1.4 1.8, and boy, I have a devil of a time even when I'm shooting down by f3 f4.
And it's true. Yeah, you should really go test your lenses out with maybe if you want to get into IR, I would definitely maybe just get the R72 filter and play with that a little bit because the post processing with some of those can be, you know, really difficult. Back in the past, I just gave it up and I saved the images until, someday came along where I could figure it out. And but yeah, it's pretty challenging. But that Rob Shea, let me go grab that book real quick. I'll show you the cover. I should have put it in,
Oops.
but color doesn't exist. And I don't know if you could see the name Rob Shea on it. We'll try to get that in the camera. Color doesn't exist. Very, very thick book, detail that goes through and he has so many free digital camera profiles for your camera, for whatever that you could use and kind of start with that if you didn't want to modify your own.
So if you do the camera profiles, are they specific to the lens you're using, or is it
Mm,
just the camera?
just the camera in the raw file. Yeah, and they have these lookup tables which are really cool because they kind of do what Adobe does when they say landscape and all the different little settings you can just click on and see if you like it or not. It's kind of the same lookup table. So again, this got me into this and where you get deeper into your camera and figuring it out. This is Jefferson Island, 590. I did a trip. This is our baseball stadium. Just different images uh, down Teton somewhere, walking around. Uh, this is Gardens by the Bay in Singapore. Really pretty area, quite unusual. You could see the people walking on this stairway, so it's massive. These trees that they have made of metal. This was one I just took last year there at the Tetons. I was chasing a moose, I think, and I looked back and I saw the tree with the clouds, and it just looked really good. This is in the redwoods, and it's really interesting because the tree leaves are green and they're backlit, but it still has the red evergreens in the background, the redwoods coming up behind it. But each of those leaves are just backlit, which was kind of cool. Thailand, in yellow. This is Mount Lassen. So a snow really adds for some contrast, either red or yellow. I like both. When I photographed, I used the 590 and the IR chrome filter. Really pretty.
I have a quick
Train.
question. So it sounds like you really have to preconceive or imagine what this is going to look like before you take the image, depending on which filter you want to use, or is it something you can pretty much, with the mirrorless cameras, you can see in the viewfinder?
Oh, the mirrorless, you can actually see this. You can see
Okay.
yellow or red because and you set your white balance properly, even though it is the JPEG, but it is a IR chrome filter, which is a dual pass. So you can see your blue sky and your orange. This is be the typical orange foliage that you would see. But really, infrared really made me look at, I really need a strong foreground. I really need something to set the image uh, in place, to make it happen. That was the one that like a train, the yellow. I've always wanted to shoot this train, but I've never shot it in infrared red, and it's usually either going the wrong direction or the wrong light or something. But the good thing about infrared is you can shoot in the middle of the day. So you don't have to get up early and you don't have to stay out late because the brighter the sunlight, the better the image, right? So it's kind of works like that. Some yellow, again, same lighthouse, Snake River. This is the other sidewalk in the yellow, and Oregon. So anyway, that's all I have right now. So thank you guys for showing up. Any other questions? Great. I'm off
Where
the
there?
hook.
Well, that probably convinced everybody they want to seriously think about this before they get into it. But
I
yeah, I
agree.
mean, I find it you know how we perceive things and what really is a photograph. It kind of changes that whole uh, perspective of, well, what's real, what's not real. Well, this is all real, but we just
Mhm.
don't see it.
Yeah, how light is reflected back at us, and where to find it.
Is there any other questions? Let's see. Yeah, Alfred, I think just commented that it looks like a lot of work once you go down the rabbit hole. So,
Yeah, I don't shoot narrowband very much anymore. I have a dedicated black and white camera and a dedicated filter wheel for black and white, but I use my color camera for on my telescope and my color wheel, and it's just instant gratification. It's just so much work to have to go back through and stack, 20 images of these, 20 images of those, and really gets a rabbit hole.
lots of rabbit holes. So,
Yeah, but anyway,
all right. Well, thank you very much. Good presentation. Probably scared all of us into just sticking with regular light.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it's very interesting. So, any other questions? Everybody's in shock from tax day, or
Mhm.
yeah. Well, cool. Well, we'll see you guys next month. I don't think Rachel's online here, but she's going to give us a presentation on bears in Alaska, a trip she took recently. So everybody look forward to that. And thank you, Dave Morgan, for the presentation tonight. it actually cleared up some things for me. I was, uh, uh, yeah, it's a little bit different on the post-processing than I ever imagined. There it is. You can't do anything with it. So,
Right.
um, all right. Well, everybody have a good rest of the month, and we'll hopefully survive the thunderstorms here, and maybe we'll get some snow in Jackson, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. And then you could say, well, we did have a winter eventually, so
Thank you,
just not
David.
in the middle of the winter. All right. All right. Nobody has anything. I'll let everyone go.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank
Thanks,
you. Thank you
David.
very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Hey,
Thank
Bill,
you.
see you.
All right. Good night.
Have a good trip, Dave.